Hello. Today in this writing advice video, I'm going to give 3 tips for all new and aspiring writers. It's just 3 tips that, if you follow these, they might help you be less stressed about your story and what you're writing. So let's get started. Number 1. So recently, I saw a post on Facebook where this guy was talking about a story he was writing, and he was looking into different religions, and he found something out about religion. And since his story follows somewhat of that religion, he was nervous because his rules did not apply to the same as the religious rules that I guess apply. I told him in a comment that it's his story. He can do whatever he wants. These are works of fiction. They don't have to be reality. True, you should try to somewhat stick to reality, but it's your story. If you have a sky that's orange and then you suddenly decide, no, I don't want it to be orange, I'd rather it be pink, it's your story. You can do what you want. So that's my first piece of advice. Remember, it's fiction. As long as if you're writing nonfiction, of course, stick to the facts. This is one reason I don't write nonfiction, because so many people have already written topics on most nonfiction stuff, so I have no interest in doing that. I like to make up stories. I like to be very creative. So remember, it's your story. You set the rules. You set the precedent. You don't have to follow anything specific. You can get as close to it as you want, but if you want to make changes, that's fine. Which is going to lead me into my second piece of advice, number 2. Do some proper world building. If you're going to make changes to things, like in the previous one, I said he looked up some ideas from different religions, and the main religion he had found the rule for did not coalesce with what he wanted. Okay, so it's his story. He can do what he wants, like I said. But he should also claim, and this is very easy, you'll know when writers do this, it's usually something like one character tells another character, well, everybody thinks it's this, but it's really this. Or they just find out in some similar fashion to that. But it's usually, this is what everyone thinks, but it's really this. This is part of the world building process. When I wrote The Guardian of Light, I knew my magic rules are going to be different than other magic rules. So I prepared my main character for that. Okay, this is how it's done. So when he goes through his journey, now there have been little hiccups I've come across in the past. All I can say is, if you come across one of these hiccups, if you come across a section where, oh wait, does that make sense? Don't try to undo what you've already done. Let it flow. Branch off. Oh, this is how it's normally done. But you got this other way it can be done. I once was in school, and our math teacher was showing us a problem. And she was showing us this one specific way to find the problem. And I'm like, but couldn't you also do it this way? And probably if we were like 10 or 15 minutes, I had to actually explain what I was talking about, because she wasn't picking it up, to the point where I actually had to go up to the board, show her the math, which ultimately came out to the same answer she got. And all the other kids are mad because I wasted 10 minutes. It's like, for people who don't like school, who complain about school, I just killed us 10 minutes here. Should be happy. But I was right, and that was another way to get the same answer. And she's like, yeah, but that's complicated. So I did get the math right. It's just I went off in a different direction. You can do that with world building. So that is number 2. Be prepared not to retcon, not to change, not to fix. Let it flow. Branch off. World building is like a tree. You have your main stump, the trunk of the tree. You have the main trunk, and what grows from that trunk? Little branches. And then on the branches have leaves. So that, to me, is proper world building. Let your story flow. Let it grow like a tree. Number 3. For number 3, I'm going to tell you, this is somewhat of a very important step. I've talked about it in the past. This is not something any one person can tell you. This is the proper way to do it. But outline. For all new writers, you want to start with an outline of some kind. It does not have to be some meticulous chart, because if you put a lot of work into your outline like that, you are going to feel by the end of it, you have to stick to that outline. That outline is your roadmap to the end. But as you are writing, you may come across a section that really feels like it needs to go in a different direction, but you're not limited to following that specific route. You are the writer. So here's my suggestion. You don't have to take it, you don't have to use it, but give this a try. Maybe this works for you. Figure out who are your main characters. Figure out what, in your mind, figure out basically what the story is going to be about. When I started The Guardian of Light, I had been bragging to a coworker that I could write an epic story about anything. And this, of course, was around Christmas time. And he said, okay, write one. I said, okay, about what? He said, about Santa Claus. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, I did that. That series all came from the idea of writing an epic story about Santa Claus. From there, I started dropping thoughts. Almost like putting thoughts in a bucket. In fact, if you want, you could do that. Write on a sheet of paper. Just throw down ideas. Then look at them all. Put them in a bucket. Here's actually what I did when I did my outline for The Guardian of Light. The entire series, right at the beginning. I took several sheets of paper. I wrote down every plot point, every character. I put the sheets of paper in front of me. I said, okay, so starting with book 1. This is what I want to put in book 1. This is what I want to put in book 2. This is what I want to put in book 3, and so on, and so on, and so on. I originally was going to have 7 books. I ended up changing my mind and condensing down the thoughts because I couldn't actually stretch this idea out to a full 7 books. And it was going to be a very basic, good versus bad storyline. However, over time, I ended up changing several plot points. I ended up changing several things. And my story kind of adapted and took on an entirely new look. By the time I was done with book 2, I felt like this story was going in a very different direction. Some of the main key plot point elements are still there from the original outline, but other aspects of the story have changed. Most of the aspects that have changed are changing it for the better, and even though it has taken the story in a new road, it still is very good for the story. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you here is make an outline. How detailed? That's up to you. If you're one of these people that is very obsessive compulsive or just very, driven to a certain line, then make it fully detailed. Basically make a short, tiny, short version of your story. But, you're going to feel trapped, because if you try to change anything then, you may not have the room to move. You may not have that room to explore your world. It's like a video game, I guess is the best way to put it. Now, when you play, there are several different types of video games. When you play a story-driven video game and you got to go from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E, there's no room to explore. You are following the path that the game puts you on. You don't get to make your own choices. You don't get to make your own decisions. You don't get to see where this world goes. If I had done that, Lindmer would not be a thing in my book series. Just saying. But if you go in with just a basic aspect of what you want your world to be like, what you want your story to tell, you can go anywhere. You could go left, you could go right, you could go up, you could go down, you could go forward, you could go back. You can go anywhere. Now, I'm not saying just write and don't do an outline. I'm saying write with an outline that's a bare skeleton. You'll flesh things out either as you go, or there's several other steps you could take in the meantime. After outlining, you should do character profiles, which, in my opinion, should just about be as bare as the outline you wrote. Because you want to get to know your characters as you write them. Yes, you should have a clear history on some of your main big key characters. But because I did not pick every single character and go with every single backstory and give them all these things that would have fleshed them out before the story even started, I got to learn about my characters as I wrote them. I got to make changes as I went along that did not stray away from who I wanted this person to be. Take Joe, for example. Joe is one that originally he was going to be like Shane's roommate, and he was never going to be involved. He was just going to get kind of sidelined and faded out of the book series early on. But then as I learned about Shane and I learned about his friendship with Joe, which I was writing, that's the crazy part of it. I was writing these characters and I was learning as I went who these characters could be. And I was trying to make them the best characters that they could be. So that's why I say do one. Do a character profile. Do a story outline. Just don't make it so detailed where you lock yourself in, because then you're going to you're basically pre-writing your story just without the words, You're basically setting up a model, and then all you're going to have to come back and do is add the paint and glue and details. In my opinion, honestly, doing things with just the bare minimum lets you jump into the writing part faster. Now, for me, writing is very simple, very easy. I can sit behind a computer and start typing. The Legal Murderer. I had pre-thought out some of that storyline. It was going to be a trilogy of books. I decided, no, that's too much, and I needed another story for October. I wrote that story in a week, and it's pretty darn good. It did not shy away from any of the details of what I wanted the story to be. It's perfectly fine for a short story. It works as a short story. The same thing with The Witch's Hole. I don't think it took me a week to write that. But then again, that was back during my first year as a writer, I was still already knee-deep in the Guardian of Light series. And I just wanted a little short story. I think that one took me less than a month, though. And I got the idea from a song. So if you ever read The Witch's Hole and you think you know what song it is, put it in the comments below. So this has been 3 writing tips for new writers. I really hope this helps you out. I hope you found this informative. If this is your first time to my channel, please subscribe today. during the month of November and December, I will be giving away free codes randomly in my videos. I also give away free codes every time I reach 10 subscribers. So if you miss out on this code, and you are not subscribed, please subscribe today for chances to get more free codes. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being a subscriber. I want to thank you all for watching, and happy writing.